Greetings, everybody. Welcome to our June 14th, 2023 UAGC TED Talks Discussion Club meeting. And today the topic is global issues, and I have two related videos. You'll see that relation shortly, I think, and I think we'll have a great discussion. One of the videos, as I was looking earlier today, actually came out earlier today. So without further ado, I will get that video queued up. I will post a link in the chat, and if you're watching the recording, make sure to pause this video and watch the first linked video in the description so you get the context before you listen to the discussion. So our first video is called "The Next Global Superpower Isn't Who You Think" by Ian Bremmer, and it just came out today. I'm also going to share my screen and stream it as well. So pretty interesting video. Yeah, I would love to hear people's thoughts. Feel free to, I see some already in the comments, which is great. Feel free to unmute if people are talking and you want to have a chance to talk, then you can use the raise hand feature under the reactions bar. Who wants to share?
I do agree with everything he said. I kind of had a feeling that technology was going to be the one in. I think it does drive a lot of our emotions, especially the way we feel about things. The elections was a prime example of that. How we saw our candidates, how we saw each other. It divided us between our close friends and family, depending on where our perspectives lie. So I don't doubt that it would get even further. It's almost part of, like, it becomes part of our subconscious. At some point we act in a way we wouldn't. A lot of people do, actually.
Yeah, great points. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, it seems like and I think that the global internet, for the most part, and the way that it's opened up communication and sharing of knowledge and perspectives, I think on the whole has been good, because I think it's exposed a lot of people to a lot of different perspectives. But then when you get into this, I guess, kind of where people feel anonymous, or like people are more willing to kind of say hurtful things, say hate inciting things through this like wall of the digital protection that they maybe feel, it can also have this like polarizing and antagonistic aspect. I saw Timothy clapping, and I see your comment: our political leaders are too busy arguing with each other to solve the problems that matter. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride and work together like adults despite opinions. Yeah, it seems like a lot in politics, it becomes very polarized and very like attacking of different things instead of uniting to like address the problems that we have, that that a lot of people can agree with need to be solved. But did you have a follow-up to that, Timothy? I saw you unmute. If you're talking, Timothy, we can't hear you. Any other thoughts or comments?
There's some great comments out there, but I do want to highlight this last one and think how this highlights just how important critical thinking skills are. In a technopolar world, misinformation and propaganda will be advancing the seemingly greater government agenda to create, divide, and manipulate public opinion. And I would say it's not just government agendas. I think there's a lot of individuals, groups out there that are trying to manipulate. I think and there's the there's the dark side of Facebook, this echo chamber situation where people will all voice the same thing, repeat the same mantra, and someone steps in and offers a different opinion. I kind of enjoy doing that once in a while. And boy, do you get attacked for it. And just, it can be very devastating. But I do find it a bit of a conundrum, because at the same time, I've taken, oddly enough, an odd pastime of myself, because I'm online so much, is I've been following some YouTube channels of people that are hiking. One of them is this guy from Maine who's hiking the Appalachian Trail. Every day or so he puts up another video. There's also one that's becoming immensely popular called the Cottage Fairy. She just is part of this cottage core, this is an interesting term, culture of kind of living very simply and slowly and meaningfully in everyday life. And she goes out and she makes herbal infusions and does drawings and picks flowers and lives this kind of idyllic life that I'd love to live. I kind of live it vicariously. And I do find solace in these things. So I actually find a sense of calm and a sense of peace in some of what's out there online. So it's this tricky thing. It's using critical thinking and also using kind of I would also say it's not just critical thinking. I'd say it's using the heart and asking what is out there that's nourishing me and what is out there that's tearing me apart. And I can feel that. I can feel that rage when someone calls me well, you all know which side of the fence I'm on, a libtard, uses that kind of language. You kind of bristle. It's like, that's not helping me. That's not nourishing me. So, but can we all make those? Can we all see to make those decisions to get that out of our lives and such? I know we're kind of moving away from the geopolitical realm. I want to get back to that, but certainly with our discussion. But how do we? All technology is a tool for good or ill. As one of you mentioned this. It's a tool. It will save us and it will destroy us. And how do we? And it's our responsibility, I think, individually and societally, to decide to make the decision as to which we're going to feed. There's and then I'll stop. I'll share this. There's a very commonly told Native American story about these two wolves, and I won't tell the whole story. But one is really good and one is evil, and which one will survive? The one we feed, right? So which are we going to feed in our lives? I think that's the real critical question. Individually, it will affect our own lives, but I think it will also ultimately affect how what level of technology plays, what role it plays in controlling the way we think about the world, the way we see it. Sorry, it's more of a lecture than I intended.
Marina brought up a point that I was going to mention too, the AI chatbots and the GPT. It's like, in one hand, it's brilliant, if you know how to use it, if you use it well, to your point, using it in good faith or with good intentions. But I've also seen it replicate people's voices completely, and I've seen people like on TikTok, for example, take that technology and all have a completely different artist singing a different cover of a different song, and you wouldn't know the difference. And that easily could be manipulated into politics, into agendas, into things along those lines. So as much as I advocate and I believe in technology, there is what you said, like it's just a dark side and a scary side to its capability.
Wow. Yeah, Wendy. And what happens when we can no longer detect what's
and that's
real?
what's scary, is
We're
knowing
very
the difference.
close to that now. We're very close to that.
Absolutely.
Brenda, did you have something you want to share? Brenda, I saw you had your hand up. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, it froze. My bad. I was going to add to the AIs and stuff. I those people. I am actually against it. Like, not against it completely. It is helpful sometimes, but I work with kids, and the way they're thinking now is more like, oh, I can go to the internet, find the answers. They dislike thinking for themselves. So they always rely on this technology. And then on the video, they said like in the future, if it was up to like our, some of y'all commented that it was like not in our lifetime, but maybe our children. But I noticed that most of these big companies kind of target like young teenagers and like children, just because I feel that it's easier to kind of manipulate them in order to get, what they really want to do with the technology.
Yeah, those are great points. Thank you for sharing, Brenda. Yeah, I think everybody is going to have to figure out what that means, like this availability of information, and even the availability of, AIs that can write and express things. Like, how do we humans fit in with that? Like, what is acceptable? How can we use those tools without, with having positive outcomes and trying to minimize negative outcomes. Go ahead, Caitlin.
So I posted it in the chat and then I went and looked it up real quick because I'm like, man, I hope I didn't confuse that. But there was a case, it was either like last week or the week before, where a lawyer had cited like other cases as a precedent in court, and they were cases that ChatGPT had made up. So it's interesting where like AI and those tools can take us, like when we look back at like what the news has looked like over the past couple years in terms like fake news and like the spread of misinformation. And then we look at these AI tools that maybe don't have moral boundaries and thinking like, okay, what kind of information can that lead to being shared? Like what kind of like information could it share? What kind of misinformation could it spread? So it's interesting just seeing like how using that, or like how it even updates. Like I think right now it can't really pull from like other sources on the web, right? Like ChatGPT was fed information up to a certain point and it kind of like spits out answers based on that. But what happens if AI has access to all the misinformation on the internet and then further propagates that misinformation because it doesn't have like the ability to rationalize what maybe is true or what's maybe not responsible to share? So relying on tools like that can get very interesting, like depending on how up to date or live they are, especially on the internet.
Yeah, those are great points, Caitlin. And I do know that the like ChatGPT, like these large language-based models, they do specifically pick sets of data to train them on, so that the people who are making these choices try to make choices that train it on reliable information, but that sometimes the language models still come up with weird random things. So that's like part of the process, is they're trying to like reduce that random variability. I'm going to turn it over to, is it Marina?
It's Marina.
Marina. That's a very cool way to
Hi.
spell Marina, but I was,
Thank you.
go
It
ahead.
throws everyone off. So I actually recently engaged in the use of Pi, the companion through Facebook that was artificial intelligence, after using the ChatGPT. And it's interesting because at the end of one of our chats, he said, how do you feel about AI having the same rights as humans? How do you feel about them being allowed to like partake in like an imbalance of politics and different things? And every time I ask a political question, it's very strongly leaning one way and trying to reframe any opposite opinions to meet like this one structure. And it doesn't match that on ChatGPT, but essentially it has a lot of like socialism, like basically like embedded in it. And that's the information that's basically like taking anything that you feel or believe and trying to put it like in a reframe through that lens, if you're using the one on Facebook. And I think it's kind of dangerous because it's advertising itself as a companion for people who are lonely or people who need someone to talk to or need assistance with something. And then not that any one idea is like particularly dangerous, because I think it's important to be well informed. But if all the information that you're getting has, an agenda, and you don't know that that's what it's doing, I mean, it's essentially like going to a therapist that, is navigating off their belief system, and you don't know how it's going to impact everyone else. And these particular ones that are on social media are meant to model our emotional behavior. and they'll tell you they don't actually feel it, but then they're able to like prompt you on things that they want to, find more interesting than just have keywords to, shut down a conversation. But then they're able to like keep pushing past that, and you can reword something to get these answers. And I think there's a lot of misinformation coming that way, because I could reword a question it's not allowed to answer and then get them to say something that could potentially be harmful.
Thank you, Marina. I think if we don't have any more comments, I might move on to the next video so we have some time to discuss that one. But thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. I think this is a really important global issue about this, the way that technology and social media and different types of technology algorithms are going to impact many aspects of our lives. So I hope that you all are inspired by this and continue to keep yourselves up to date and educated on these issues. So this next video is also kind of about world or global perspectives. This one is specifically focused on China. The other video I mentioned China as an economic superpower and growing in other ways in global influence. And this is a video, What the World Can Learn from China's Innovation Playbook by Keyu. And I believe they grew up in China for some of their life, and then also in the United States. So I'm going to post the link, and then I'm going to pause recording. Awesome. So we've got about 11 minutes. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted. I caught most of it, but there was a rather large spider getting very close in my office space and then disappearing. So I was kind of keep track of that. So yeah, I see some great comments some great thoughts in the comments chat. But yeah, feel free to raise your hand or unmute and share your thoughts.
I thought it was really interesting how she approached everything from the lens of a moral gray area, because a lot of the times it's really easy to swing one way or the other. Like we see most of the negatives, or for half of America, they have automatic negative thoughts. Like, it's super interesting how in America, people who have schizophrenia, they hear negative voices, but in other countries, they actually hear positive voices. And so when you're looking at something like with this big of a global impact, I think it is important to be able to outline, the positives and negatives, and to say like, yeah, China did a great thing, but that doesn't mean that I endorse everything that they do. But what can we learn from them to make this collaborative and cooperative effort so that we have a greater good and, can embrace our global civic duty?
That is a great point, Marina. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to agree or endorse everything that a country or even a company or an individual does to learn from their successes and their failures, to try to improve things in our own lives and in other areas. Yeah, Timothy, that is a good point. The media news cycle and the strive to get views and clicks and that sort of thing does tend to focus on kind of negative aspects or shocking, things that entice people to click and to watch. So we do need more. We need more positive media, positive stories.
Do you guys feel like it was an accurate representation when she basically said like China leaned a lot more into embracing, those technologies than America, and that's why there was this, sort of takeoff? Or do you feel like we're just embracing it in a different way?
I don't know. Part of me feels like it's more of a like it's a financial thing when it comes to us. Those electric
Sure.
vehicles and things on our end are just so expensive.
Yeah.
Where she was kind of emphasizing how they brought down the costs and provided cheaper and better products. It seems like in our society and in the United States, it's more about a financial gain than anything. Like you can have
Oh,
this great
absolutely.
vehicle that save you on gas, but that's going to cost you like a good 60+ grand.
Right. America has a harder time taking care of its people in a way that leads to those like universal successes. So like some of the countries that do like universal basic income, it's like it has its downsides, but then in situations like this, it can maximize the opportunities using like artificial intelligence. And it kind of eliminates some of that fear for the general public of, you know, like, oh, Chat GPT is taking my job away. Because at least they can find like other avenues. But then that's also kind of horrifying because like, what are we teaching them? Like when they put these, you know, things out there and then we're looking at what other countries are doing and we're still making the same choices. And they're still advancing and no one's working together or listening. I think it's creating a very big problem.
Definitely. And yeah, no system, no technology, no political or economic way of organizing things is perfect or without pros and cons, flaws and benefits. So, you know, I think somewhat I wish we could see more different types of policies, different systems, different ways of incentivizing things, and then see what works best and what has the best outcomes, and like, you know, learn from different ways of doing things, because certainly our, you know, kind of the dominant capitalist global economic system, you know, it has benefits. It's created a lot of great things, but it's also created big disparities in wealth, and has still left a lot of people behind in terms of, you know, meeting their basic needs, food, shelter, water, clean water, and education. So, you know, I think it is important to look at all these different systems, different methods, and really analyze them in a way that we can learn from them.
Do you
Yeah,
feel
but
like, oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just wondering if you guys feel like the idea here should be like we need to improve everyone's digital literacy in order for them to make a more informed approach about these things instead of just like their general assessment off of what they consume when it comes to technology and how they're making those decisions? Or do you feel like people have that like literacy and fluency and they're still like making choices for personal gain?
I agree. It kind of tying it into the first video. I think that educating yourself and ties into a lot of that. And a lot of people don't have that literacy in many different avenues and easily feed into a propaganda or some type of message of some sort. So yeah, I definitely agree with your point that it's definitely an education concept there.
I think it might also, and this is going to sound crazy coming from one such as myself who's online all the time. Surprise. I think there's an important place in education for also making people aware of the many dangers of being overly connected with the internet. And I think that, you know, it's interesting to see the appeal of things like this cottagecore, this idea of just slowing down, making a cup of tea, noticing the tea infusion, going out in the backyard while looking at a flower, just separating yourself for a time. And I think that distancing ourselves, if we distance ourselves, we might be able to realize too, wow, that was really crazy, or that was insane, or that was, you know. So I think it's not just critical thinking in the moment to discern, but I think it's also taking the space in our lives and recognizing the degree to which we can become monopolized by this world that we've generated, this internet world. We can become, and a lot of us have become, totally attached to our digital devices. You know, we're waiting. My wife joked today, oh, I was wondering how long it would take before you realize you left your phone in the kitchen. You know, it took me about 2 minutes. But we're so bonded to these things. And I think that separating ourselves, being aware of that, maybe I'm naive and like living in the past, I tend to do that. But I think there's something in recognizing that we can oversaturate ourselves with media.
The influx of
Dr. Bliss?
information.
No, go ahead. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
No, it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
Just saying that influx of information and the inability to process it or to know how to process it, the more we're going to be tied to something that can just constantly, bombard us with things, the more that we have to be like educating ourselves and have that self-awareness and such to know like how to like discern those things and displace those things and, like how to use it for the greater good. Otherwise, we're just constantly like our moods being affected and what's going on, but we're just consuming all this information and it's kind of putting you into autopilot and dampening like your awareness of things because it's like the new norm.
I agree with
I
you
have
on
this-
that.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll agree with you on that. I was going to agree also too with Dr. Blizzard. I agree that we can also do way too much. I agree that we need to know what we're doing and that we need to be up to date. I think that we do need to take a rush. Sometimes impulsiveness can be a danger, and that we need to be accountable. We need to do something when something's not right. But also too, I think that we need to take the time during the day. Like I know when my husband comes home, I unplug. I turn my phone off. When we're at the dinner table, I don't have my phone on. My kids do not keep their phone at the table. I don't do schoolwork whenever my family is here. I take the time to unplug. And I think that people just need to recharge. They can't just keep going constantly. And I think that when it comes to making accountable decisions on anything, especially when it comes to global issues, we need more information. And what we do get, I think the decisions that we do make needs to be held accountable, and we need to do the best that we can. And I think we need to make decisions that we do make. We need to leave the earth a better way than what it was when we found it. We need to make an impact. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Tanya. Any last thoughts before we adjourn for the evening? We are at time. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, but if anybody has any final thoughts.
I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. These are some good discussions. Take them with you and just continue to ponder them. And heck, maybe consider doing it your own TED event. We'll make it happen for you. A couple of you have already done that, and share a couple more videos. Let's keep talking. Obviously, AI is something we need to keep thinking about because we're definitely headed for some tricky waters with that. And I think also just thinking about the role of technology in our lives is really valuable to do. There's a lot of, and then thinking geopolitically, like where are we headed? These are big questions, and we need to keep asking them and exploring them together. And I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join us to do that tonight. And I really appreciate it. Both of us, Mark and I really appreciate your involvement in this. So we hope you come again, but we also hope that you consider sharing your own and doing some. If a TED Talk approach isn't for you, if you just want to have a discussion about something and share a couple points, not even have a video and just have an hour's talk, mind walk, we can make that happen too. There's no necessary rules of format here at Honors. We just want to explore ideas together in the community. And whatever that looks like, feel free to let us know. Be sure to record your hours for the PLA through your Excel spreadsheet and also through the all important Qualtrics link. Be sure to do that and keeping track of that. And advertisement for our new Honors PLA email address for all your PLA needs and concerns in one cool email address. Honors PLA. I'm not going to make an advertisement. Honors PLA at uagc.edu. And both of us, we thank you so much. And many of you I'll see back in my classes. And And thank you all. If you have any questions about honors, about life, about anything, we'll be happy to stick around and answer them. And otherwise, have an awesome evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We will hopefully see you next month on the second Wednesday. Have a good evening.
And
Bye.
we're sticking around if you need us.